Hello everyone, thank you very, very much for coming, and I'd like to extend a warm thank you to our politicians for coming because like we've all noticed certain members are not here. My name's Amethyst and I've been on the DSP since 2004 after a diagnosis of bipolar. This is a snapshot of my life that I wrote about a year ago now, so unfortunately not much has changed. I realise that most of you may not be privy to the trials and tribulations of those of us on welfare, so I'm going to share with you a snapshot of what my life is like. I hope that you will hear this with an open heart and not judge me too harshly. Unfortunately, these are the privations that welfarers are forced to endure on a daily basis. When I get paid, I have money for that day and sometimes the next, if I'm lucky. After rent, electricity, always a shocker of a bill, gas, rojo and petrol for the car, food for Mojo, phone and internet, there is no discretionary income left at all. I have learnt to endure the reality of living from one fortnight to the next without a cent in my pocket. I'm now inured to judgmental stares as I pick over the hard rubbish to ascertain if there's anything salvageable that could be of use. I once schlepped a hard rubbish mattress home on top of my car because it looked better than the one I had at home. I'm not angling for sympathy. I know how lucky I am. I have an association house in which my rent is capped at 25% of my income. Not everyone else is as lucky. I also know how lucky I am to be on the DSP, which is more than a lot more than people get on New Start. If I can't make it without robbing Peter to pay Paul, how the hell are they faring? I honestly don't know how they do it. I can't even go there in my head. I'm fortunate enough to have kind people that give me food for my chooks, which I then pick over to see if there's anything edible for me for dinner that night. I have picked the mould off food and eaten it anyway. I rarely go out and don't visit people unless they know of my situation because I can't reciprocate their hospitality. I can't guarantee I'm going to have milk in the fridge if they come over for a coffee. And it gets a bit wearing to say, oh yeah, you can all come, but can you all bring some toilet paper and some milk and maybe your own coffee as well? It doesn't work. I once accidentally dropped a jar of coffee on the floor. That was indeed a tragic day. After finishing my crying tantrum, I carefully swept up the coffee glass mix into a bag and then assiduously sifted the glass from the coffee to ensure that I had coffee for that fortnight. At one point, my car registration, phone credit, internet credit and driving licence fee were all due in the same week that my dog Mojo became extremely ill. I had a choice between paying for those bills or taking Mojo to the vet. Naturally, I chose the vet because my dog means everything to me. The vet was kind enough to take my part payment of about $400. If memory serves, on the condition that I pay the rest the following fortnight. They were great, and at the time, Mojo was fine, but it meant that for 13 days I was confined to my home. I didn't see anyone because I couldn't drive my car. I didn't go out unless it was to walk Mojo. I didn't speak to anyone because I had no credit. I had no contact with anyone because I didn't have the internet. I basically spent those 13 days in bed, counting down the days until my next payday. The enforced social isolation brought on a depressive episode, which resulted in suicidal ideation. At the time, if I didn't have Mojo to care for, I would have ended my life then and there. How many of us don't have a Mojo to ameliorate their suffering? What happens to them? Recently, I saw a Facebook comment that referred to the current welfare income level as financial abuse. It is financial abuse. We are forced into poverty demonised and belittled for being a drain on society, when in fact we pay more tax than the richest companies in Australia. And the politicians' entitlements are never questioned. So who's the real burden? We don't save our money in offshore accounts. We spend every single cent we have in order to survive. All of our money goes into our local economy because we can't afford to travel outside our environment. Surely that is a boon to local businesses. It makes no sense. I still believe that most people are kind, good and decent. And if they truly knew what life was like under the poverty line, I'm sure many would be outraged. I currently know of at least 6 people who have teeth rotting in their heads because they can't afford to see a dentist. One woman at the age of 70 had to wait for her teeth to fall out because before she could get her dentures, because she couldn't afford to have them taken out. She lost 12 kilograms waiting because she couldn't eat. Is this what Australia has become? I say enough is enough. When are you people going to say it too? Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It is the protection of a fundamental human right, the right to dignity and a decent life. That was Nelson Mandela. And I suppose my question is, what are you actually going to do? I understand that you have good intentions, but you're talking about a review on New Start when people are dying now. And I'm not being dramatic. We're losing people. It's got to stop. What do you intend to do about it?
And the candidates that are invited to respond to Amethyst's statement.
Thanks very much, Amethyst. I completely understand how ridiculous a review is. I do get it. Particularly given, because of what everyone's currently dealing with. Unfortunately, there are, yes, I do like to think that everyone is fundamentally good. There are a lot of people that find it very difficult to look past their own front door and themselves. So it's really challenging to do something. You need to kind of bring the community with you, and so that's why we're doing a review like we did for the age pension and disability pension when Labor was in government last time, which did bring the biggest increase to the pension ever, though, my God, the age pension still isn't that great, if we're clear. But I've been assured by Linda Burney, who's our shadow, that that review is not going to be something that drags on. It's something that she's going to want to do immediately and quickly. And if I'm elected, I want to be as involved in that as I possibly can, because it's not good enough. And I just think our society is losing such a sense of community anyway. Like there's this huge problem of isolation and people being alone and us not supporting one another, that the government really actually needs to step up and support people, because we're losing it and so I'm door knocking all the time and have been for 6 months, and the gap between the haves and haves not is terrifyingly big. Yeah. And we need to rectify it as quickly as possible.
I'm going to start by stating the obvious, Amethyst. You're not a drain on society. And I wasn't a drain on society when I was on welfare either. You end up feeling so worthless, and it's not fair. We have so much to give. We're amazing people. In terms of what we can do, the Greens have a policy to immediately raise New Start by $75 a week. I am sorry that it's not more. And I am willing to push for more. I'm willing to keep pushing because you're all my people. Anti-Poverty Network has supported me in the past, and this is something I really care about personally. But as far as dental care goes, my mum was a dentist and she would be horrified. And the Greens are offering dental care, free dental care as well. And I just want to repeat the thing about stigma. No one here is a drain on society. A drain on society is someone who takes more than their fair share. A drain on society is someone who exploits the workers. The vulnerable are not a drain on society.
Yes, you've made some very, very valid points, and I have been listening and trying to take notes as well. And I know my fellow colleagues at the back there are taking notes, so they're certainly going to report it back to our shadow ministers. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I migrated here when I was a child, and I'm very, very proud of Australia. When I saw that sign, when I heard about that, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. We are in the #1 country in the world. We've got the best of everything, and then we've still got poverty. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. If a 16-year-old kid, right, can ask his mother, wow, why aren't they looking after me? And 5 years later, they're still not being looked after, you've obviously got to change the vote. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to force you to do anything, but I'm asking you to open up your minds, because whatever you got is not working, you've got to change it. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. What you've got has not worked. It hasn't worked for the last 5 years for this young man. It hasn't worked for many, many young men and women like him. And people with disability are not getting any better now than what they were 5 years ago. The government has to do something. And it's the government for the people, by the people, not the government for themselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Amethyst, and certainly don't judge you and admire you for doing your best in a very difficult situation. And I might say too, I'm fully supportive of Newstart being raised by the $75 or more. Support the Greens in free dental care. I just don't see why it can't be joined in with Medicare. It's no different to other medical needs. We really should be providing this dental care as well. And the wealthy, the problem with the capitalist system is that it allows the very wealthy to massively increase their wealth. I don't actually blame people for doing that, but I blame the governments for not stopping it. The 1% at the top have the same wealth as the bottom 70%, and that's just growing. The rich can invest that money and just see it multiply. And we need tough taxation, transparency taxation laws to make these big companies and the big billionaires pay their fair share of tax.
That's it.
I don't know the best way of doing that, but something like the GST where everyone pays 10% on everything, I sort of think the very rich should have a minimum 10%, that none of them should be able to pay 0% tax. Doesn't matter if they made a loss last year or they did this or they did that, or their research and development, they should pay something. They should pay that 10%.
Yeah.